All right, hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. This is a channel for educational purposes, and we look at important theories of everything that nobody's ever heard of before. In particular, today is video number 243 on the reciprocal system of theory from Dewey B. Larson. And Mr. Larson was an engineer who worked in the U.S. in the 20th century. Developed his theory starting way back in about 1930 and kept plugging away at it until his death in 1990. He put out a lot of different books on the reciprocal system and a lot of articles, and had some followers. They had a little bit of a periodical there for a while, and he had, after his death, some other writers and researchers tried to, expand upon his theory, in some cases slightly revise it, and we're going to be looking at one of those theories today, or one of those authors today. Basically, the reciprocal system is a system that posits that the universe is made out of motion. Not matter, not energy, but motion. And motion for Larson is the relationship between space and time. Now, we take the most basic motion that we can think of, speed. The bike is going 20 miles per hour. It's 20 miles of space in 1 hour of time. Space over time. That is speed. Space over time. So, at least in the most basic case, we are talking about the motion is actually a relationship between space and time. But when we look at all of the other scientific quantities as well, they turn out to be motions, and they also turn out to be relationships between space and time, but with a few caveats. So the first is that what Larson calls coordinate space and coordinate time. Both time and space come in multiple dimensions, in 3 or more dimensions, x, y, z coordinates. Larson says exactly 3. I think you can make a case that it would be more than 3. But regardless, at least 3 dimensions of space and 3 dimensions of time. We're accustomed to the idea of 3 dimensions of space, but not so much in terms of the 3 dimensions of time. And then time and space also have their clock aspects, meaning their scalar motion progression aspects. And we can see this in the clock. The clock of time is always getting later and later and later. Time is progressing. Time is flowing, always getting later. This is a motion, but it has no particular direction. It has a magnitude. Time is flowing at a relatively, or if not completely, constant rate, but it is not flowing in any particular direction. Or rather, we see it as not flowing in any particular direction. The analogy here would be using a balloon and a magic marker. You blow up the balloon, all of the dots, you put dots on the balloon with a magic marker, and all of the dots are moving away from each other, but in no particular direction, or in every particular direction. And that is can be represented then just by the rotation of the hands of a clock. The clock is progressing forward in 1 dimension, around and around and around the clock. That is the net motion. We can see with all the individual dots on the balloon, that uh, each dot is moving away from each other dot. And that is a multiplicity of directions. But what we really see is we see that we're not capable of seeing all of those motions at once. We're capable of seeing the net motion, and that motion is the motion of a clock. And so that's clock time, but then there is also clock space. Clock space is the progression or the flow of space. All objects are moving away from each other. The space between them is getting farther and farther and farther apart. And that was actually witnessed by the Hubble telescope way back in the 1920s, that contended that all of the distant galaxies are moving away from each other, but in no particular direction, or in really all directions. And again, you could measure that with a clock. You measure just the net motion, not all of the particular directions. Those are unresolvable. And so then also time and space come in their only quantized form. There is no continuity of space and time. They come in chunks, quantized. There's no less than one. You either have one unit of time or you don't have any. And then you either have 2 units of time or you just have one. And this is what you call quantization or discrete unit postulate. And when you have exactly 1 unit of space in 1 unit of time, 1 over 1 is the speed of light. Larson refers to this as 1 unit speed. Unit speed is the speed of light, and it is the boundary between 2 separate sectors of the universe, according to Larson. So there is one sector of the universe that's moving slower than the speed of light, and then there is another sector of the universe that's moving faster than the speed of light. Larson calls these the material sector and the cosmic sector, respectively. Now, we know a great amount about the material sector from scientific observation and measurement and hypothesis. But we know very, very little about the cosmic sector. In fact, Einstein would contend that the cosmic sector doesn't exist, where he says that nothing moves faster than the speed of light. In Larson's universe, this sector exists, but we are not capable of recognizing it as such, and we recognize it in certain other ways that science hasn't quite figured out yet. But we can extrapolate from our material sector vantage point to the cosmic sector and figure out exactly, not down to the individual, but in terms of generalities, we can figure out at least generally what is going on in the cosmic sector simply by switching the roles of space and time. So in the material sector, you have coordinate space, 3 dimensions of space, and clock time, progressing of time. But in the cosmic sector, you have coordinate time, and you have clock space, 3 dimensions of space, 3 dimensions of time, and space is progressing in the cosmic sector. Okay, now those are the basic postulate. That's the basic first postulate of Larson's system. And that's the main postulate that he has. The other one has more to do with math and geometry, and it has been disputed by some of the people that have come later, including Dr. Bruce Perret. The second postulate talks about commutative mathematics and Euclidean geometry. In particular, Dr. Perret says that the geometry of the universe is actually projective and not Euclidean. Euclidean is just a subset of projective geometry. So Larson was technically right when he says that the geometry of the universe is Euclidean, but he was not speaking about all situations. Euclidean geometry is just a subset of a more complete projective geometry, according to Perret. We might get into some of his writings on that later, but today we're looking at his kind of more speculative writing that he did under his pen name Daniel Phoenix III. And Dr. Perret passed away back in 2020, but did some great work in terms of revising some of Larson's work, making it a little more accessible, and also correcting a few of the kinks that were in it. He wrote a bunch of papers under Daniel, the Daniel Papers, and 4 of them are in his anthropology series, the Hidden History of Homo sapiens. And we're looking at the second one of those, which has to do primarily with Project Bluebeam, which is the government fake alien invasion project that I don't know, something's going on in Ecuador right now about that, but who knows? It's all speculative. And we are looking at, he's talking about how to recognize evolved solar systems, where the aliens may actually come from. And he actually determined that our solar system is the most evolved solar system within this 45 light year range. He says we're the most advanced kids in the neighborhood, and talks about Tau Ceti, a G-class yellow star much like our own, is a neighbor with planets, but those planets are younger than Earth, perhaps still back in the Jurassic period with dinosaurs running around. That also means a high magnetic ionization level, so the planetary environments would be radioactive. A similar problem that the SMs, or the Anunnaki, faced here on Earth during their colonization. And yes, our sun is only about 20 million years old, according to the calculations by Professor K.V.K. Nehru of India, who is also one of the leading revisers of Larson's work. According to the calculations of Nehru, basing his computations solely on gravity and the available amount of matter in the area, including the cosmic microwave background radiation. The estimated lifespan of a star generation in the reciprocal system is approximately 100 million years from dust to supernova. So, where are the ETs hiding? The stars most likely to have intelligent life would be 3rd generation, old enough to get by the worst of the early radiation levels, but not too old as the sun would become too hot with radiation into the ultraviolet and X-ray bands that would become destructive to life. What we are looking for are third generation G and F class stars. Okay, and now he has a table here that looks at all these different kinds of different star systems. I haven't really heard of many of these stars. Most of them are identified just with numbers. HD, I know HD 10180, I believe, is the most similar to our planet, our solar system. Okay, then he says, if I were looking for intelligent ETs in the area, my choice would be HD 10180, which is a few thousand years further along in evolution than we are, with a large 7-planet solar system that is similar to our own. With similar conditions, similar life may evolve. But I've yet to run across a hyperintelligent, pangalactic ETs, or even mice, that come from HD 10180, a star so insignificant our astronomers never bothered to give it a real name. Conclusions. There is an active, ongoing program to suppress the spiritual growth of humanity being implemented by those folks that consider themselves to be the direct descendants of the gods. They have positioned themselves as royalty and political leaders, priests and gurus, and the leaders of the military-industrial complex. Like the kings of old, they consider their genetic purity of ancestry to be the dictate for their rulership of the planet, and the only reason the remainder of mankind is allowed to exist is to be their slaves. Their modus operandi is rivalry and competition, using the tools of technology. You have been trained to believe that the man in the mirror is who you really are, having about as much substance as your reflection. The powers that be are experts at manipulating reflections and have used it to their advantage to make sure you never realize that there is something real and tangible casting that reflection. Through control of education, they have you believing everything is backwards, so you cannot see the consequences of nature. Even if you try to take a step forward, they have all the spiritual avenues well guarded with the ascended master of your choice. So, buyer beware. Correcting the stellar evolution shows that our solar system is the most evolved in the immediate area of nearly 100,000 cubic light years. And there are not a whole lot of similar solar systems nearby. But astronomical research has shown that there are hundreds of up-and-coming solar systems circulating about, red and orange stars that will become viable in the near future for explorers and colonists. The natural consequences also indicate that the majority of suns that channeled sources claim to be from do not have planets. Hence, the logical conclusion is that they are part of this spiritual misdirection. Most of these sources also claim mass ascension, where you can receive all the knowledge in the universe just by sitting on your butt, sucking a brew, watching people beating up each other on sports shows. I ask, could anyone of reasonable intelligence actually believe this? Okay, now, after his section on conclusions, we go to his epilogue, which is the Cro-Magnon matrix. Just like the progression of the natural reference system described by Dewey B. Larson that causes all physical systems to grow and interact, nature also impresses its goal to evolve consciousness on all the life that comprises it. There is substantial information indicating that man is a genetic hybrid between native life and an extraterrestrial species. But man is still part of the life matrix on Earth and subject to those same rules that desire the evolution of consciousness. That gives us an extraordinary option that cannot be taken away, only disguised. These blue bloods have a blue pill to offer, and if taken, you remain ignorant of your own potential and live in their world of artificial boundaries with backwards education, reaping material rewards of being a good slave. Not having achieved a state of ethical consciousness, the jump to level 3 that Larson describes, You remain in the loop. And as any engineer can tell you, entropy increases until there is nothing left to make the loop again. Blue pill vendors always have a common agenda, that of rivalry, even if they are stooges believing they are doing the right thing. Things to look for: competition, fighting, wars, starfleets of warships, hierarchical orders, chains of command, be it political, social, or military, superior beings for you to worship, us versus them, free handouts, promises to get something for nothing, or ascension without effort. Anything based in fear, control, power, or ego gratification. Red-blooded Turanian genetics have a red pill to offer, part of our inheritance from the apes and Neanderthals that make up a significant part of our DNA. If taken, you become aware of your own potential and can work to transform yourself and the world around you back to a natural course of evolutionary development. The Tomorrow people, welcomed as peaceful explorers in an ever-evolving universe. Red pill vendors also have a common agenda, that of rapport, of working together to accomplish common goals, where each donates their unique approach to life without demands of compensation. Things to look for: cooperation, harmony, compassion, exploration of any subject, psionic ability used to assist healing and evolution, requests that you do the work yourself and share what you discover on your path, hard work, dedication, and ascension with a lot of personal effort. Using these basic agendas, it becomes fairly simple to sort through the myriad of information available to find what is real, leading to the evolution of consciousness, and what is just a showpiece, leading back to the start after a long delay and detour. The first step to solving any problem, like the spiritual evolution of mankind, is to identify the problem. Hopefully, this research will assist you in doing just that. Now that you have an understanding of the problem, mankind can start cooperating to find a solution to get us back on track without having to resort to the same fear tactics that those in power are already using. Just remember, the red pill is hard to swallow at first. Then, as you wake up from the illusion, you find that the freedom it provides is rather sweet. Okay, that is the end of the article. And that was part 2 of the anthropology series, The Hidden Histories of Homo sapiens, by Daniel Phoenix III, also known as Dr. Bruce Perrett, the late Dr. Bruce Perrett. And we will start with part 3 of this article tomorrow. Unfortunately, something just happened and I switched articles. I'm just trying to locate the third article here in this series. I believe it is. Let's see if this is the right one. Yes, this one, article number 3 in this anthropology series on the hidden origins of Homo sapiens, is called Homo sapiens ethicus: life, death, reincarnation, and ascension. So that is the article that will be starting up tomorrow by Dr. Bruce Perrett or Daniel Phoenix III. And in the meantime, have a great day, and thanks for tuning in.